John DilLullo, Chief Revenue Officer for Forcepoint. At Forcepoint, CRO John is responsible for driving the company's worldwide sales and business development organizations to accelerate customer adoption, deployment of Forcepoint solutions globally. He has nearly 30 years of experience in enterprise security, networking, cloud, and AI. Plus a go-to-market expertise in spanning sales, marketing, customer success, technical support, and operations. Throughout his course of his career, John's special devotion has always been to improving the customer's experience and embracing specialized routes to market for transformational business solutions. Please bring your hands together for John. Thank you. Thank you, John.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is a very dangerous stage up here, I can already tell. Easy to fall off of. But thank you very much for the warm welcome. And it's great to be able to participate in an event like this. I made a solemn pledge not to talk about my company, which is very hard to do, but I can talk a little bit about my customers. And I just want to say for all of those of you out there that are our customers, thank you, thank you, thank you. It has been a wonderful ride, and the last few years in the Gulf and in Saudi in particular have been fantastic for us together. And we're happy to serve you and look forward to continuing to do that from our new office, in fact, that we're opening in the next 2 months. So my topic today, I don't know there we go, simplifying the Zero Trust Framework. I think Mohana did an incredible job sharing with us a lot of different ways to attack the complexity. I'm going to fly a little higher than that and talk perhaps more about a different way of looking at some of the security imperatives that we're dealing with right now and seeing if there's a way to simplify even further how we solve some of these challenges. So we're going to keep it fun and fast, and I hope you'll enjoy the presentation. It's been a wild ride, and for those of you in the room that were alive in 1972, you'll remember the 1200 baud modem as we first started networking, and the last 50 years now have been pretty fantastical and very exciting. Along with these 50 years came an incredible amount of progress. We saw the elongation of human lifespans. We've seen technology benefit commerce. We've seen productivity improve dramatically all over the world. The impact of technology, of networking technology, of digital disruption has been unprecedented. But along with that came a lot of theft and a lot of challenges. And all of this information, in fact, 20% of today's world economy has now been digitized. 20%. But that 20% today is lighter than a feather and very susceptible to theft. And we did what people do, what we considered the assets of yesteryear. We took an epic approach, a chivalrous approach to securing those assets. We put them in bunkers, we put them in castles behind walls with bridges and gates and sentries and passwords and secret codes that we would share to get access to or to unlock or to convey those assets. And that was epic. It turns out that that was an epic fail because the metaphor, the digitally disrupted assets, that 20% of our economy, is not best protected by concrete and boulders and walls and moats. People make mistakes with their data. People check their personal email at work. These are all things you know. Default passwords go unchanged. Billions of new devices are added. In fact, last year is the first year that more unmanaged devices were added to corporate networks than managed devices added to corporate networks. And with the pandemic, we saw the onset of remote work. And almost overnight, it became much, much more difficult to secure those assets that in yesteryear we were able to secure behind the walls of a castle. Now, what really did happen? Well, let me give you a couple statistics. Losses to cybercrime during the pandemic were 3 times greater than in any other period in history. Obviously, working from home, working remotely is less secure than working behind an office. The total loss by 2025 is now estimated to be $10.5 trillion, approximately equal to the economy of Germany. And when asked anonymously, when polled, 86% of all enterprises report that in the last 12 months, they were the victim of a cyber crime. Obviously, we're not winning. And in fact, as you see the spending ballooning from $300 million on IT, as Mohanad alluded to, $300 million in 2005 on IT solutions, to now 5 times that amount, and yet the losses continue to grow faster than the investments that we're making. Now, what's really happening is that we are fighting an enormous enemy. In 2001, I'll go back a year here. In 2001, there were almost 500,000 reported cyber crimes. 500,000. 250,000 zero-day malware detections were recorded every single day. That's a unique piece of malware minted every single day. And in fact, 56% today of all email, 56% is malicious. It's either a phishing attack or an opportunity to try to convey some piece of malware. And 20% of all web traffic today is malicious. The numbers are amazing and outstanding. And as I mentioned, 86% of companies have been breached, have lost money due to this. Now, you see that not only is the enemy enormous, but it's also the battle against the enemy, against the attackers, has grown in its scope, in its area. In fact, if you look at just during the pandemic, 30% of all corporate workloads, and I know this is happening here as well, moved to the public cloud. Not that the cloud is more or less secure, but it is less secure from the traditional metaphor of security that we've established. In addition to that, 40% of corporate devices today are unmanaged. People are not able to lock down their corporate environment as well as we used to be able to do, largely because of the promulgation and the explosion of the different device types. And then lastly, we saw 300 million workers during the pandemic leave the office, take their most sensitive data with them. And if that weren't enough, we saw the Great Resignation happen, if you've seen this phenomena, where all of a sudden people are leaving the office. In many cases, they've never been in the office. Many employees that we've hired never met their manager, and yet they've got a laptop full of critically sensitive data that is now missing. Fighting a huge enemy on an expanding battlefield, and guess what? We have less people to do it with. Today, there are more than 1 million open security jobs. By some estimates, this number is almost as much as 2 million. And these are tough jobs. The average CISO today does not see their second anniversary in the job that they have. 21 months is what you can expect the average CISO to be in their assignment. It's a hard, stressful job, and it comes with a lot of burnout. You see a lot of turnover. A typical corporate enterprise will have as many as 10,000 alerts per day. 10,000 alerts. The security operations centers simply can't keep up. And so what I'm going to talk today is about how do we take a different view? How do we finally break that castle metaphor and sort out a new way? And you say, well, why is this year any different? Well, I think that this is the year that people cracked. People realized that they can't win. They can't keep up. This is the year that the security teams just lost it, that they gave up. Now, what is it that I have heard that customers, when I talk with customers, I'm fortunate enough that I spend time with customers almost every day. I talk to people, I understand the challenges that they're dealing with, the struggles that they have. What they really want. There's a lot of great, I'm not disparaging anybody. There's a lot of great tech out there. In fact, we have a lot of great tech. Customers are not asking for more tech to make them more secure. This is my experience. What customers are saying is, please help me to consolidate my environment. The average customer I talk to has somewhere between 50 and 70 different security products already. That's 50 to 70 different man-machine interfaces. That's 50 to 70 different tech stacks. That's 50 to 70 different formats for messages, alerts, alarms. They want us to simplify the management tasks. It's too hard. 10,000 alerts, trying to figure out which are the ones that I can't let fall to the ground, which are the ones I have to catch, which are the ones that are truly going to hurt my enterprise, hurt my company, get me fired, get my boss fired. How do I integrate these solutions better? There were, if you'll all remember, 2-3 years ago, we had, maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago now, a spate of SIMs and SOARs and an incredible amount of technology that came out to try to help people manage the integration of tasks, to orchestrate, to automate some of these tasks. It didn't scratch the itch that our customers are looking for. And I think also what you're seeing now, I know we all have constrained budgets, but for the first time, security organizations are saying, I know I'm going to fail. And they're making that enterprise risk trade-off. How much can I afford to fail? How much is it going to cost me to fail less? And they're saying anything, Mr. Vendor, Mr. Solution Provider, Mr. Consultant, anything that you can do to reduce my spending, to reduce the team size that I need to support, to reduce overhead. Anything that you can do is what I really want. And the element of that is simplicity. I look at the most valuable company in the world today is Apple Computer. Or maybe it's Saudi Aramco, but it's neck and neck. But Steve Jobs, when he founded the company, this is one of his famous quotations, simplicity is the ultimate of sophistication. How can we simplify the task of securing this most precious asset that's 20% today of the global domestic product of the world? How do we make securing it simpler? And by the way, that 20% is growing 2.5 times faster than the 80%. So it's an urgent requirement. Now, the answer I would propose to you is zero trust. Zero trust is not new. Zero trust is a concept that's been around for about 10 years. It's not the new thing, though. It is a different way of looking at security. It's about pushing security decisions and entitlement decisions to the very edge, to the fringe of the network. And it's about making no exceptions. I'll give you a few examples of what I mean. But first, I want to share with you some of the things that are happening in Zero Trust. If you don't have a Zero Trust strategy, if you haven't embraced it as a corporate paradigm that you want to deploy in your infrastructure, understand that others are. Just in the last 2 years, the amount of people, Okta, the identity and access management company, has seen their inquiries grow 270% on Zero Trust. Google search has more than doubled in the last 12 months. People searching about Zero Trust. And if you look at the interest that happened during the pandemic on Zero Trust, it was the #1 most requested security inquiry at Forrester and Gartner. It's a very, very powerful idea, but it is one that requires a rethinking of how we secure our infrastructure. Now, the way we've always secured our infrastructure is trust but verify. You're in the building. You're attached to a wired port. I trust you, but I'm going to implement a collection of verification techniques to make sure that you are who you say you are and you're doing what you say you're doing, and you're dialed in remotely. You may be connected to VPN. You may be connected through a dedicated connection. I will make some decisions about you. but I will verify those, which makes perfect sense. Trust, but verify. And I verify with all of these technologies. This is where you start to see the proliferation of technology. VPN, VDI, NAC, NAP, MAP, NDR, DPI, IDS, IPS, UEBA. The list goes on. It's an acronym soup. That's 100 elements long. But what happens? All of these technologies, in the goal of verification, that you are who you say you are and you're doing what you say you should be doing, I introduce indeterminate outcomes. I introduce a collection of non-deterministic results, meaning I think you're doing something bad, but I'm not 100% sure you're doing something bad. And that creates this fatigue, this condition of alerts and alarms that we're all dealing with. What do you do with alerts and alarms? You got it. You buy more technology to try to help you manage that. And so many of our customers have gone down this path where now I'm buying SIMs and SOARs, and I'm looking at incident response solutions, and I'm outsourcing, and all of these types of work. And what do those tools create now? Those tools create the need for incident teams, for security operations centers, for all of the human capital that we could be investing on making our companies, our organizations, our government bodies so much more productive, so much more efficient. They're being wasted dealing with alerts, alarms, and re-imaging laptops all over the enterprise. It's time, as Steve Jobs said, it's time to think differently. And that new different thinking is one that has the underpinning, the architectural underpinning of zero trust. And you can read all about zero trust in the NIST publication from just a few years back. But zero trust is a concept. How do you implement a zero trust architecture? And what is emerging is the best solution, the simplest solution, the most elegant solution, and the one that hopefully will finally allow us to sleep better at night, to keep our jobs longer, and to free up resources in our organization to be more competitive, to be more efficient, to be more productive, is the SASE framework. Now, I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about the SASE framework, and then I will drop the microphone. But what I would like to propose to you today is that there is an easier way. That this problem can be solved, but it does require us to rethink how we solve the security quandary. The first element of the zero trust paradigm, of the SASE solution, the SASE architecture for the zero trust paradigm, is you understand that people, or the access point to an application, is really only coming from 4 places. It's coming from a corporate network. It may be coming from a branch network. It may be coming from an unmanaged device. That might be an unmanaged PC. That might be a phone. That might be an OT device, an IoT solution. Or it may be coming from a remote user that's working in a coffee shop or in a hotel lobby. There is no other application interface origination. Similarly, there are only 3 places that those connections are ever actually made to. Those 4 sources only have 3 destinations. One is a SaaS application. That can be a SaaS application in the public cloud or in a private cloud, it doesn't matter. It's a SaaS application. The second one is the one that we're all familiar with. This is the filthy, dirty web. This is perhaps the most dangerous place that you can go. And then the third, and probably the one where the most corporate assets are contained, are the private clouds and the data centers. 4 to 3. Now, before I got into security, I was a math major. And so I know that the answer is there's only 12 paths. There's 4 times 3 paths. in this diagram. And in amongst those is what I'm going to call the zero trust zone. That means if I can establish zero trust, means I'm not doing any verification, I'm merely establishing zero trust between those 12 paths, then I will achieve that architecture. Now, there's one element, or you know these three components, these three elements by their name: CASB, or SWIG, or Secure Web Gateway, and then lastly ZTNA, or Zero Trust Network Architecture. This is the actual element. When I'm sitting in my headquarters and I want to talk to Salesforce.com, I'm going to go through a cloud access security broker, right? When I'm sitting in a branch office and I want to access the filthy web, what am I going to? I'm going to go through some type of a secure web gateway or a similar process. And similarly, when I'm a remote user working in a coffee store or a cafe, and I want to access a private application on my corporate data center, I'm going to go through a zero trust network access reference architecture. Those are the three things you need for those 12 connections. Pretty simple, right? Now, that collectively is SASE. Secure Access Service Edge. I'm guaranteeing secure access at the service edge, leveraging one of those three technologies. Now, there's some nuances you can add to this, like SD-WAN. In the old days, SD-WAN was invented to do some really creative things. At first, it was a software-defined wide area access network. It was to eliminate things like, or to understand the characteristics of different wide area networking communication channels: jitter, latency, delays, noise. Those were the things that you used your SD-WAN for. Then SD-WANs got smarter and links got better. And what did it evolve into? It evolved into least cost routing, essentially. You see people leveraging SD-WAN now to eliminate their costly MPLS networks, for instance. So it's evolved from quality of service to least cost provisioning. Now what we see SD-WAN doing is saying, wait a second, I don't care about either of those two things anymore. I need an SD-WAN technology that allows me to do what? Allows me to make enterprise risk routing-based decisions. And so if I'm on a Zoom, there's no reason to send a Zoom call through my corporate infrastructure. That can go straight to the filthy internet. And so adding that one dimension to those headquarters and to those branches, now you have the full and complete SASE picture. And how do you guarantee that this is simple now? Because what I see here is I see the need to manage an SD-WAN, a CASB, a SWIG, ZTNA. The answer is a single policy repository. And so this would be the aspiration that I'd ask all of you to embrace, or at least experiment, or have a thought experiment about. Could you do it in your enterprise? Could you create one repository with your policies that governs three technologies: CASB, Secure Web Gateway, and ZTNA, and allows you to deploy a zero trust infrastructure? Excuse me, I think you can. And so with that, I'll bring to a close the time that I have up here, but I hope this has been exciting, inspirational, and hopefully something that will encourage you to take a look at zero trust. And without giving my team is here with me today. I'm sure they'd love to help you through that journey if you so choose to. Thank you.